Hello, Vandana Shiva.
Hello.
So I think it's a really amazing opportunity for us today. So we are just going to start. The call is going to be in two parts. We're going to be a first part. We're going to listen to the stories and inspirations from Vandana Shiva. After that, we're going to have a moment to be able to have a conversation and ask questions. And while you're not speaking, please mute your microphone so we are not getting the background noise. And if you have anything concerning sound or whatever troubles you're having, please use the chat. And Niels is going to be taking care to answer you via chat so we don't interrupt the call, okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much for the effort.
Start saying really thank you to Dr. Vandana Shiva. We are really happy to have you and to have this possibility to have this call with you. To listen to your inspirations and also to can have a conversation with you. Wanted to start introducing Dr. Vandana Shiva. It's a little frame because he has a huge experience, and we are gonna just say some things. And yes, he's really famous because of her activism in environmental field and also in the anti-globalization. But she's also a researcher. She has written more than 20 books, and she has E-mpulse. She has propelled a lot of different movements that take care of the people and that take care of the earth. And yes, she has a really huge contribution of ecofeminism, and she has also worked a lot in food sovereignty and seed sovereignty. And so there are a lot of things to say of Dr. Vandana Shiva, but for us, it's really important to be here with Vandana Shiva, because we really appreciate and we are really inspired of the work of taking care of life. And this is a contribution that we really love of Vandana Shiva, how she's working with the things or the people that take care of life, of the nature, but also of women or farmers.
Yeah, and also for us, and this is connected to the title of this conference, is that we are building a project that tries to create a space to host diversity from people coming from different origins, coming from different countries, and with the common dream of changing the world to that one that it's able to host and embrace social justice, taking care of nature, and all dimensions of sustainability. So for us, it's a huge representation of taking care of diversity, and it's a honor. And we don't want to talk more, and just listen to Dr. Vandana Shiva. So we are going to mute, and thank you very much.
Thank you. It's my joy to be able to join you, particularly to talk of diversity of life, which is embodied in the seed. And the reason I have spent my last 30 years protecting that diversity, taking care of the life in the seed, and through it the life of communities and diverse species, is because of the kind of threat being posed to both people as well as our planet and its biodiversity through totally cooked up ideas by giant corporations. Since 1987, I have been saving seeds, and I started the movement Navdanya, which means 9 seeds. Why did I start it? I started it because corporations like Monsanto were saying that they were the inventors of seed, that they should now own the seed and they should collect royalties from seed. And in order to establish their ownership through intellectual property rights, they wanted to use the tools of genetic engineering to pretend that they were inventing life. Why is this so wrong? It's wrong because you don't invent a seed, because you can't invent life. Life is a continuity of millions and billions of years of evolution, thousands of years of human innovation that is embodied in every seed that feeds us. The 200,000 varieties of rice that the peasants of India evolved, or the 1,500 mangoes, or the hundreds of thousands of tomatoes that have been evolved across the world, or the corn evolved by the Mexican peasants and the Andean communities. Nature's intelligence, as well as the intelligence of free societies, societies that are able to evolve on their own terms, always trends towards diversity. All systems based on control are based on extinguishing diversity. So all fascisms extinguish diversity. Industrial agriculture extinguishes diversity. And all of this extinguishing of diversity is based on control. The control is necessary in industrial agriculture because how else do you bring into agriculture toxic chemicals, which nature doesn't need and we don't need for farming? After the last war, industry that had made chemicals to kill people for the wars, the poison gases, the nerve gases, even the explosives, said, why waste all this skill of death, of making death? And they turned their expertise into an area that is central to life, our food. Our food, which should nourish us, which should give us health, was transformed into an instrument of the death of diverse species. Look at what's happening to the bees. We are with the neonicotinoids that coat the bees, as well as for the monarch butterfly, the Roundup that is sprayed, which kills the milkweed, on which is the habitat of the the monarch butterfly. So the skill of killing was turned into the skill for agriculture. And the real intelligence of nature and peasants and women was turned into inertness, as if nothing goes on when a seed evolves and adapts to changing climate. Or nothing happens when peasants select the seed and pick the best for the next crop. So it is not just an erasure of diversity, it's an erasure of the intelligence of life, because life is intelligence. There would be no life if there wasn't. All of life is an amazing communication at every level. All our cells are communicating. Every root hair of a plant is communicating with the soil. Communication is the nature of intelligence, exchange. And through that nature of exchange, choice. Because when you are exchanging, you have multiple pathways. You can make different choices. And I often laugh and say that even the bacteria exhibits intelligence, because we sprayed bacteria with lots and lots of antibiotics. And now the bacteria have become antibiotic resistant, which means they have used their intelligence to choose a pathway to adapt themselves to the antibiotics. Weeds have become adapted to the Roundup that Monsanto sells for the Roundup Ready seeds. They're now superweeds. All of these evolutions are expressions of intelligence. And yet we as human beings are being told, you should stay stupid. If the banks want to rip off your societies, in Greece, look at what's happening to our sisters and brothers and children in Greece. And Greece is just 2 steps down the road, but exactly the same torture has been applied to Spain, to Portugal, to Italy. How can an economic model take away the work of the past, of those who have retired and take pensions, and steal their pensions, which is stealing their past? How can an economic model steal the future from young people? And that same economic model of theft that's based on a false idea of who invests. Banks that rip off societies are not investors. They are thieves. And we can see with Greece how no matter how deep the pain of people, they do not care. That extra billion flowing back. And, you know, that debt isn't even to the European Bank. It isn't to IMF. Greece never borrowed from these public institutions. It was the private banks that got Greece into debt, saying, investment, we'll give you investment. And then when it all failed, they walk away and tell their friends in the public institution, take it. Take it by whatever means it takes. But whatever is happening to Greece is happening to our seeds. Because when a Monsanto says, I have invented the seed, they're saying exactly what the bankers are saying. We created Greece. It's a myth of creation. It's an illusion of creation. I started to work on saving seeds because I was at a meeting where these old companies laid out to talk about their future plan. And in 1995, we got a whole new World Trade Organization, and in it, intellectual property rights agreement with a particular article called 27B. A Monsanto representative in 1995 said, we've achieved something unprecedented. We defined a problem and we offered a solution. We were the patient, the diagnostician, and the physician all in one. Just as the banks are the patient, the diagnostician, and the physician all in one. They pretend to be the ones to whom a debt must be paid. They then write the diagnosis, and they become the doctors who offer the recipe. Exactly what Monsanto did with seed. And what was their illness? What was Monsanto's illness? That life thrives. They were sick because there is life that is free. They felt sick because a seed gives rise to seed, and not one seed, hundreds of seeds, thousands of seeds. They felt sick because a farmer can save that seed and grow the next crop. A farmer can exchange with their neighbor. So over the last 30 years, I have both been outraged as well as entertained, because surely you must laugh at the insanity of not just claiming to create what you cannot create, but the insanity of then saying, and I'm going to make it illegal for farmers to save seeds. I'm going to force royalties out of farmers. If there are laws, I will write them. Even if there are no laws, I will pretend I wrote the laws. I'll give you just 2 examples of how the Monsantos are writing the laws of life, just like the financial system is writing the laws of our economy. Economy, after all, is supposed to mean a household. And it's supposed to be based on ecology, the laws of the household, the laws of ecology. Today, economy has become an economics of theft, stealing the wealth of nature and society, just as much as agriculture has become an agriculture of theft. So Monsanto entered India illegally in 1998. I had to sue them in our Supreme Court because they entered without permission. The story is long. All I will say is, since they entered our country, they now control 95% of the cotton seed supply of India with their GMO BT cotton. Something that Indian farmers have never done, because our farmers are resilient. They don't give up. But they started to give up. 300,000 farmers have committed suicide. This is a result of the extortion for royalties, for a property that can't be Monsanto's property. Because if at all there's a property right in seed, it's a common property right. All of the generations of farmers who gave the seed, all of the communities in the past, in the future, the seed is their commons. And every enclosure of the commons is one way or the other a theft. But one could say, oh, India, third world country. United States is supposed to be the superpower of the world. Right now, as we talk, the Koch brothers, who are the biggest financiers of fossil fuel in the United States and the richest, and are financing the privatization of democracy itself, they basically have paid money to say democracy is not about one person, one vote. Democracy is about corporations deciding who will win through their money. And they even have a case on which they got a judgment. It's called Citizen United, in which they got a ruling that corporations influencing our democracy is their freedom of speech, pretending they are persons. So look at it. 3 levels of illusion. A piece of paper on which we write a contract and say, okay, Monsanto, you can exist as a legal entity, transforms itself into the fiction of a person, then claims it has a freedom of speech, then claims it has a mind which creates life on earth. What a grand illusion. And to establish this illusion, they will violate every law of nature, every law of every society, every law of our constitutions. So the United States right now, the Koch brothers, have got a law passed through Congress, which has a very complicated name. It is called Accurate and Food Labeling, Safe and Accurate Food Labeling Law. It's basically a law to make it illegal for any state, like Vermont, like Maine, or other states where people are trying to get labeling of GMOs, a right we enjoy in more than 60 countries around the world. We have GMO labeling in India and in Europe, but the poor US citizens, the biggest democracy of the world, do not have the freedom to know what they're eating. That's why the citizens have decided to call this act the Dark Act, D-A-R-K, the denial to the Americans of the right to know. Now, this is happening in the US, but there is another free trade agreement, which is what connects that little seed to the globalized economy. And that is called TTIP, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. Now, of course, the Monsantos pushed into the WTO all kinds of laws, but we also resisted. We built movements. In India, I worked with our parliament and government to make sure seed could not be recognized as an invention, to make sure farmers' rights to save, exchange, breed, sell seed could never be taken away. In Europe, you built movements to stay by and large GMO free, a little bit of corn, sadly, in Spain. But outside that, no GMOs are cultivated. Now there's an attempt to undo the European citizens' ability to exercise their freedom to have safe food and good food and to have good seed. Last year, I worked with Europeans because the European Commission had tried to push a law, which is another kind of Monsanto law, to make diversity of seed illegal, to make local seed saving illegal, that Even in a little garden, you'd have had to go to Brussels. A small farmer up in your mountains would have to go to Brussels to say, may I please grow the seed? And the criteria was uniformity. When we need diversity, that law was rolled back because of a big movement. You now have TTIP, which is attempting to impose GMOs on Europe, to impose monopolies on seed, to destroy all the safety and safeguards that European movements have built. So the issues before us are so very clear. From the little seed, we can learn so much. From the little seed, we can learn freedom. And what is freedom but to grow? What is freedom but to evolve? What is freedom but to multiply? What is freedom but to be resilient? What is freedom but to be a little different, tiny bit different? So you are unique. You are your person. There's brilliant scientists whose thinking is very close to mine. One was Spanish and one was Chilean, Maturana and Varela. And they differentiated between two kinds of systems. One controlled from the outside, one evolving from the inside. They called one autopoietic, those which make themselves in a self-organized creativity. And allopoietic, which are controlled from the outside. What the financial system is doing to Europe right now is an allopoietic system. What Monsanto is trying to do to the world seeds and world agriculture is an allopoietic system. What we have to bring forth with all our energies, all our solidarity, all our creativity, and your generation has no limits on creativity. Creativity is your very nature. That creativity is what we have to exercise to show how in shaping our freedoms, we exercise the highest creativity. I really love the phrase with which you all introduced me, taking care of life. Taking care of life has become the most radical and revolutionary thing we can do in our times because we have a death science and a death economy trying to tell us that no species should live, no person should be free. 5 of us should make profit, not realizing when the planet is gone, they are gone. When societies are gone, they are gone. I would like to see Monsanto selling GMO seeds in the heart of ISIS in Syria. The destruction they're causing is closing their own future, something that's not a real person with no real intelligence cannot see. That you can't destroy the ground you stand on, the ecological ground in nature or the social ground in community and stable, sustainable democratic society and expect to survive as corporations. The days of the 1% are numbered. It is time for the 99% to rise. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. It's mega inspiring everything you have shared. Now we were wanting to open a moment for people to make questions. And yeah, for now,
we would like to start doing the first question for you, Vandana Shiva, and it's that the people that is working in the social change or that is working with the environmental issues, like because of the difficulties and because of the kind of the pain that is that the activist people or the people that are working in this field suffer. Sometimes we saw that it's difficult to on the track, and when we listen to you, we feel a lot of power and a lot of energy, and a lot of power that you have been working for several years, and just I would like just to have some inspiration about what is the flame or inside you that keeps you alive. All this energy, all this power to work on this film.
Yeah. When we are fully aware that we are part of life, we are not outside life. We are part of a living system. And, season to season, does a tree always need external support to keep bringing new leaves? No. Does a seed that we sow into the soil need Monsanto's permission to grow into a plant? Monsanto thinks it needs its permission, but the seed grows into a plant when it has the right amount of moisture. The sun shines, the soil has fertility. Those conditions then allow the plant and the seed to organize on its own. So the deep awareness of being alive is the first step of not feeling that options are closing. It's only when you think of your life via the financial system, or via the system of technological control, or via a system of political control, that there is the sense, oh my gosh, they're not giving me opportunities. But opportunities come from within. And as I mentioned, we are living in periods of collapse. And in these periods of collapse, we have to be very creative. And the creativity is primarily a shift from what we have called in our most recent manifesto, which was released in at Milan for the Expo 2015. The manifesto is called Terra Viva, and I know it's being translated into Spanish, but the English and Italian version are available. And if you Google Terra Viva, you'll find it on the seedfreedom.in website or .info website. In Terra Viva, we both shown how the dominant model is an extractive model. It extracts from nature. It extracts from society. And then it pretends that that extraction is growth. But what it leaves is ruins. What we have to do is create circular systems, but not as an intellectual exercise only. We have to create circular systems to say, what's the mutuality we can share? What is it that I can give you? And what is it that we exchange? What is it? After all, let's not forget that through most of human history, societies have been prosperous without money. Even today in my country, you can go to remote tribal areas. They have wonderful forests, they have wonderful culture, they wear the most beautiful jewelry. All of that surplus is created with circular economies. The idea that money creates money is a very recent idea. Nature creates wealth. People create wealth. And they do that through circulation. Nature, how does the seed renew? Through circulating from a seed to the seed to the seed to the seed, never running out. How do societies carry on for thousands of years? Through circulation, generation to generation, or across horizontally. And that circulation of wealth, well-being, knowledge, creativity is where we have to turn our power to. We have to realize that the crisis is so deep that we can't afford to be part of an exploitative system that has exploited my friend because tomorrow it's going to make me disposable. And so each of us should today bring into creation the economy of what I call the law of return, of gratitude and thank you. And it has material consequences. 30 years, because I love the seed, I saved the seed. I did an agriculture where seed wouldn't get wiped out. We did an agriculture based on biodiversity, because for us, agriculture was a place to protect the seed. In the process, we got food. And now our studies are showing we actually get more food. By saving the seed, we get more food. By protecting diversity, we get more nutrition. By not depending on chemicals, our farmers earn 10 times more. So by becoming part of a circular economy based on the law of return, each person actually has better well-being. So another thing we need to do is get rid of the architecture of colonization of our minds. The architecture of Cartesian mechanistic thought, which is our prison. The architecture of financial fictions, which is another prison. We need to realize that systems can only be understood through knowledge of systems, not through knowledge of fragmentation. Therefore, systems understanding is vital. That's the true knowledge. That's why we talk of agroecology. And the same applies for economics. We need a systems economics that understands the ecosystems on which it is founded, that understands the social systems and their dynamism, and doesn't work at destroying those systems on which it rests, but builds on them. And the opportunities are limitless. But we must not think that the opportunities will come from those who are destroying our lives. They will have to come from within us.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate also, and I want to say that bringing subjects that are so actual and so close to us, and yeah, like also in a moment of really being part of a great change that wants to happen, and also being the victims of the extortions for not making it happen. So it's really inspiring, like to listen these positions and this power from so far away, but at the same time very close. So really appreciate it. And I pass to, I think Archana asked on the chat that she wanted to make a question. If you want to make a question, please post on the chat, and Archana, you can talk. Hello?
Hello, Artana. Are you there? Hello?
If not, we can pass to the second one and then see if Archana comes back.
Yeah.
Vale. Ivan here?
Yeah, we have here a question.
So if you want to come closer.
So namaste, Vandana ji. So I am Ivan, I'm from Spain, but I've been living for the last 3 years in India. My love is there, my home is there. And right now I am working on a bridge between India and Spain, between the East and the West, between the future and the past. And talking about diversity, talking about the seeds, I would like to know what would you bring on that bridge from the East to the West, from the West to the East, from the future to the past, from the past to the future. Yeah, thank you.
Well, this is itself a journey from the past to the future. So every time you don't let a seed go extinct, you are, in a way, protecting that possibility of that journey in space. All seeds have been exchanged. But because of the mess our agricultures are in now, we have to be very careful about how we exchange seed today. We have to make sure that small quantities, they're tested and tried so they don't introduce new disease, because industrial agriculture has spread so much disease in the world. That one seed can carry a fungus that can wipe out an entire agriculture. That's why I am really convinced that the exchange of seed in our times cannot be like an exchange of other goods across ecosystems. And we have already exchanged so much. So many of the crops you eat in Europe haven't come from Europe. So you already have a legacy of other countries. The corn came from Mexico, I think the tomato also came from the old world. The new world, they call it. Though it's an old world. I mean, that's Columbus's definition. And I always say, poor Columbus, I call patenting of seed the second coming of Columbus. Because the first coming of Columbus was Columbus being given a letter by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabel to say, go find lands where there are no white Christian princes and occupy them on our behalf. And so Columbus set off thinking he's coming to India for our wonderful spices and our wonderful textiles. And he thought he had landed in India when he landed in America. And so they always say Columbus discovered America. And I always say, no, he lost his way. And that's why all the Native Americans are called Indians, because of that, of Columbus losing his way. So the Columbian exchange, historians have called it, where sadly disease went to the Native Americans and lots of biological wealth, all the foods that we depend on today. So let's find every seed we can, where we are. Save it, multiply it, diversify it. Because we offer a course on agroecology every year from 1st of September to the end of September. And because we celebrate life and we believe knowledge of living systems is a deeper knowledge than a knowledge of dead systems, which is an ignorance of living systems, or a knowledge of killing is not a superior technology. A more sophisticated technology is how to keep systems growing, evolving, flourishing. We do a week on living seed, living soil, living food, living economies. Now, in the living seed course, of course, we talk of seed saving, but we also talk about breeding. Everyone can make their own seed. The seed industry has made us believe that seed comes from them. No, it comes from the earth. It comes from our ancestors. We can all be breeders again. We can all be seed savers again. And I always say, the smallest thing you can do in our times is find a seed. Go out into a village, find a farmer who has a seed, or go to an old grandmother who still has a little garden. Get a seed. Put it in a little pot. Protect it, save it, share it. That is the ultimate commitment to say, I will not give up on life.
Thank you very much. So we have our chatter's question, and she couldn't. We are not able to listen to her, and she's asking. It's in the chat. Well,
how do I go to chat? I have no idea.
I'm going to read it for you.
Okay.
While there are those who exploit, there are also those who are getting exploited and are clinging onto a system that they believe is the only way. How do we bring the shift in thinking and action at the grassroots level? Do you have any example you can share with us? Also, I deeply admire and love your work.
Well, you know what we've done with the seed is an example. We've created 120 community seed banks. Hundreds of thousands of farmers are now using their own seed because we made that little effort. And they, like I said, they're growing more food, more nutrition, having higher incomes. How do you shift your thinking? How do you do your transformation? By giving up those categories I said that colonize our mind and prevent us from imagining another future. The biggest colonization is on our heads. Break free of those chains, and the world is so rich and diverse. And I feel so happy that all the ancient knowledge that is in all our cultures, and the new sciences that grow free without corporate control are coming to the same conclusions. The same conclusions of how life works. Maybe a peasant didn't know the name of a particular fungus in the soil, but they knew how to make fertile soil, and they knew how to thank the earth. And maybe our grandmothers didn't know how the bacteria in our gut are talking to each other or to the cells in our gut, but they did know you are what you eat. And that's why they were very careful about what we eat.
Okay.
5 more minutes and then I must leave because I have to catch it.
Yes.
Yeah, we have 5 more minutes, so...
Yeah, 5 more minutes, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So maybe...
Well, if you don't have a question, oh, there is a finger I can see. I can see someone behind you.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we have here...
Hello everybody, hello Vandana. I'm
Hello.
thankful for your inspiration, and I would like to ask you about the Nagoya Protocol and what do you think about this? Because I was there in 2010 and I was really happy what is happening there, but I don't see now the results of this Nagoya Protocol.
So for those who don't know what the Nagoya Protocol is, it's a protocol to the Convention on Biological Diversity. It's a protocol on access and benefit sharing. And it's basically supposed to correct the damages of corporations thinking that the world's biodiversity is theirs to grab, and then they patent it, and then they sell it, and then they collect royalties from it. So the Nagoya Protocol basically says you got to take permission. You got to share benefits. It's about prior informed consent. It's basically trying to correct a distorted system. Of course, I work for a system of deep freedom. I work for the commons. And I work on community rights and community duties. And that's why the pledge we take in Navdanya is, we've received these seeds in their diversity and richness and integrity from nature and our ancestors. It is our duty to pass them on to future generations with the same level of diversity and integrity with which we received it. And therefore, we will not obey any law and not become part of any system that treats it illegal for us to save our seeds and share our seeds. Because saving and sharing our seeds is our highest ecological duty to the planet and our highest social and ethical duty to each other. So we need all the levels. What is biodiversity? Biodiversity is about pluralism. We need diversity of species, which is what the convention is. We need diversity of cultures. We need diversity of politics, different ways of getting to the same end. We need diversity of economies, from the local economy and the household economy, all the way to a global economy that all rule the. That diversity at every level is our strength. Corporations see our diversity as a block, as an interference. So if we see the Nagoya Protocol as a respect for diversity and a respect for autonomy and sovereignty, then we can use it in all kinds of ways. But if we assume the corporations that are trying to steal our diversity, or governments that are always more friendly to the corporations than they are to nature or people, that somehow they're going to implement a good law, no, they'll rush to implement TTIP and do nothing about prior informed consent. That's why it's a time for true, deep democracy. And as we say in Terra Viva, it's time for a new agriculture, it's time for a new economy, but above all, it's time for a new democracy. And I know in Spain, there is a lot of excitement because all kinds of experiments are underway. So put your best into your own faith, in your freedom, the freedom of your people, the freedom of your country. In solidarity, I will now say bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vandana.
Thank you.
for taking care of our futures and of life so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.